Hello everyone, this is Ken Jackson, Development Manager in the Innovations Lab here at Volusion. Today we'd like to talk about getting your development environment set up to start working with a theme engine, which is Volusion's next generation theme framework for the Volusion platform. This particular video will be targeting those of you who are on a Windows operating system, as we have a separate video for those of you on a Mac operating system. You'll also notice here on the right that we have a list of the steps that we're going to be following today to get your development environment set up. So if you get confused, go ahead and pause the video and refer to these steps. Of course, if you have some of these things already installed in your machine, you can move ahead or just look at these instructions here to see what we're going to be doing to get your development environment set up. I also want to take a look at our theme engine documentation site. There are basically two pathways in this documentation site depending upon the type of developer that you are. If you are a developer who is interested in just making small HTML changes and or CSS changes to a boilerplate or theme that we have created, then the Quick Start Guide is the place to get started for you. Otherwise, if you're looking for more of a clean slate, where you want to be able to do more advanced types of things with a theme engine, then go ahead and move over to the Advanced Guide. With all that said, we're definitely looking for feedback. So if you have any questions or just have some feedback in general, please visit volusion.uservoice.com, and you'll see a link to that theme engine documentation site that I just showed, as well as a link off to our Storefront API documentation, which is hosted at apiary.io. You'll see a listing of all of the different endpoints that we have with a sample of the data that they return. Again, that support site is volusion.uservoice.com. Today we'll be talking about getting your development environment set up and pulling down the method theme, which you can preview at samplestore.io. This will be the theme that once we're done with this, we'll be able to host on our local machine. So let's go ahead and get started. Since the theme engine is an open source project, it's hosted at GitHub. So in order to work with GitHub, you have to have a GitHub account. So let's navigate over to www.github.com. And this is for those of you that do not have a GitHub account. Go ahead and choose a username, enter your email address and password, click the sign up button, and you'll have your account. I already have one, so I'm going to bypass this step. The next step is to install a GitHub client, and that's dependent upon the operating system that you have. So since we're targeting Windows users in this particular video, let's navigate to windows.github.com. You'll see in the middle of the screen a download link. Click it, and after it downloads, run the installer. In order to keep this video short and concise, I'm going to be running multiple installers simultaneously, so feel free to pause the video or move ahead if you're faster than me. I'm working on a virtual machine, so this particular environment is rather slow. The GitHub client takes a little while, so I'm going to go ahead and click install, and then I'm going to move on to the next step. The next thing that we need to install is Node. So I'm going to go navigate to nodejs.org. Again, similar, there's an install link in the middle. Go ahead and click it. And once it downloads, I'll launch the installer. Click next, accept the terms, next. We definitely want it to be added to our path, so we don't have to make any changes here. Click next and install. This one takes a while, takes a pretty good long time as well, so I'm going to go ahead and minimize it. Close the window. Actually, I could have just left it open, but now we're going to move over to the next item, which is to install Ruby, which you can find it at rubyinstaller.org. There'll be a big red download link in the middle. Go ahead and click it. Since I'm on a 64-bit machine, I'm going to click this particular link, the Ruby 2.0 installation for a 64-bit machine. I'll download the executable. It's already done. Click on it to launch it, which I think I did. Good thing to note here is that these steps are very similar for those of you who are interested in working with the AngularJS framework, as well as a lot of other modern-day front-end frameworks. So once you get your development environment set up for the first time, you'll never need to do these again, which is kind of the good news here. Okay. Looks like the Ruby installer is finally ready to go. maybe. Okay. Node's asking for it to be allowed, or for it to be allowed to be installed on my machine, so I clicked OK. And here we go, the Ruby installer. So I'm going to accept the license, click Next, add Ruby to my path, install. Go ahead now. The next step after this, let's go ahead and wait for the Ruby install to finish, is to install the Ruby Dev Kit. Looks like the GitHub client is almost finished because it pulled up. Click Finish. Now the Ruby Development Kit is on the same page. We chose the 64-bit version of Ruby installer, so we're going to use the 64-bit version of the development kit, which is this link. Go ahead and click it. It's going to ask to be extracted to my local machine. Minimize that. And so far, haven't been doing a good job telling what step we're on. We're on step 7, which is we downloaded the Ruby Dev Kit. As soon as it's finished extracting, we're going to run some scripts. So I want to choose where I want to extract the Ruby Dev Kit. So I'm going to click the ellipses, and I'm going to navigate to my root drive, which is my C drive. I'm going to create a folder off of that called Ruby_dev_kit. Click OK. It's the same. It's there. Click Extract. Looks like Node is finally finished. Now I'm going to open up while this is extracting. We're going to have to run some scripts now. We're on step 7. We're going to run these Ruby scripts at the extraction path of these files, which was that Ruby_dev_kit. So I'm going to go Windows key CMD to start my Windows command prompt, and I'm going to CD/ to go to root, and CD Ruby_. I'm going to hit tab to do some autocomplete. Enter. Now we're in the right directory. We're going to sit tight until this is finished extracting, which looks like it's almost done. And now on the right, you can see the 2 commands that we're going to run, which is this Ruby dk.rb space init, followed by Ruby space dk.rb space install. Again, all these instructions, or at least the the typed versions, will be added with the video in the description area or on the page wherever this video is hosted. Okay, that's done. So I'm going to Ruby space dk.rb space init. Okay, that's good. Ruby space dk.rb.install. We're done. Okay, so that's that. Now I'm going ahead and enter my GitHub credentials in the GitHub client, so it's configured. Let's see, did it do it? Yep. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close it. Now, let's go back to Windows or our Chrome browser, and let's navigate to the repository for the theme, the theme engine, which can be found at http://www.github.com/volusion-angular/theme. Since it's a private repo at the moment, you'll see that it's a 404 page. So if you get this and we're still in private mode, please send an email to ken_jackson@volusion.com, and we'll give you access to the repo. It eventually will be public, so this when you go to navigate to this particular URL, you'll see it. So I'm going to go ahead and enter my credentials so that it'll let me through. Now what you'll want to do is you'll want to fork the repo, which I've already done, which is here in the right corner of the screen. You click it, it'll ask you where you want to fork it. So I would have forked it to my area in GitHub, which this is my handle. And you'll see I already have it here. It's forked from Volusion-Angular/theme. And pay particular attention to the fact that there are, actually, let's go back to the upstream. There are a number of branches here. The root is very vanilla, no actual theme designed pages created for you. So we don't want to really pull that one down. That one is not the method theme that I was showcasing here at samplestore.io. The one we're really interested in, the branch that we're interested in, is this ecom-method. So we'll get to that here in a second. So once you've forked the repo, I'll go back to my repository. So I forked it, we're here. You want to hit the clone in desktop, which should launch your GitHub client. So effectively this is pulling down the Volusion-Angular/theme repository to my local environment, so that way I can start working on it. Okay, now in the right corner there's this gear icon. If you click it and the drop down follows, you can open a shell. Here we're going to have a couple commands that we need to run to install a few other things. You want to type, when the command prompt is ready, gem, oops, gotta wait here, getting antsy. Come on, you can do it. Like I mentioned, I'm working on a Windows virtual machine at the moment, so this is probably a lot slower than your environment is able to run at. So let's see, gem install bundler. Okay, this is a problem that I've seen a number of times. If after you've installed Ruby, you need to actually close the GitHub client for it to pick up the fact that you've made those programs available, the executables available on the path and the environment variables. So if you click GitHub client again and go back to that gear icon, now we should be able to make use of gem and node as well. So click that, click open a shell here. Okay, gem install bundler. Okay. And that takes us to step 12. If you want to read more about Bundler, just check out bundler.io. The next step is to install Bower. So we're going to run npm install -g for global -g grunt CLI Bower. So it's going to install the grunt CLI Bower, and after that we are almost done. So this is using the Node Package Manager to get all of those dependencies, download them to your machine and install them. So depending again how fast your computer is, your bandwidth of your connection will kind of determine how fast this step will be. And that was step 13. There's some pretty cool features that come along with this install, not necessarily this install, but the actual running through all these steps. Once you actually get your environment completely set up, you'll be able to edit your files in your browser and have a live reload feature that actually refreshes your browser in real time to display your edits, which is pretty cool, so you don't have to keep flipping back and forth and hitting the F5 or refresh key on your browser every time you make a change. It'll also run through all the tests, do all the minification of your HTML, concatenate scripts. There's a lot of different things going on that really are really cool. Okay, so now as you can see here, it says master. So we're on the master branch. We really want to use the ecom method branch. Like I was saying, that is for the method theme that is previewed over at samplestore.io, and that's the one we want to work on. So we need to get that branch. So we're going to go get checkout -b ecom method. This is the name of the local branch. It could be whatever you want to call it, which I'm going to name it the same. Track --track space upstream / ecom method. Hopefully I typed that right. Okay, so it's getting that branch. And now we're going to install the project dependencies, so very similar process as we did when we installed Grunt CLI and Bower. It's getting all of the different dependencies for our project. After this, the last command is to do a grunt serve, which is going to run a node server on your local environment, which, like I said, is hooked up in a live reload fashion, so that way you can edit your files and have those edits refreshed in the browser automatically. It's pretty cool. Okay, I think we're almost at the end of this. Like I said, though, this is a one-time type of thing, so once you've run through these steps, you'll be good to go working with a theme engine and even AngularJS in general. Our theme engine is actually running atop Angular, so you'll notice a lot of the code, and we can, while that's running, actually we'll go ahead and open the method theme that we've checked out. I'm going to navigate to my GitHub folder, and when we do so, you'll notice a lot of familiar Angular code. That is, if you're familiar with AngularJS in the first place. So most of the code lives in the app directory, and we've got views, which are the particular templates for the e-commerce pages, which you'll see a product template, a home template, a category template, a contact page, an about us page, even a style guide. some partials for a footer, header, even a mobile menu for this particular theme. Your scripts will be in here, the app.js entry point, directives, controllers, images, styles, typical types of folder structures that you see with most front-end development. I'm going to go ahead and open the product HTML page. And you'll see we're also using Bootstrap framework, so you'll see a lot of the grid system. This is Bootstrap 3.0, as well as the classes that hide certain elements if you're on a particular viewport size. In this case, this is visible for the extra small size. And we're going to make some edits here in a second to show how the library load works, particularly here and the medium to large viewport size for where the product name is. And if you're familiar, this is the curly brace syntax, and denotes that there is a particular object on the scope called product in this case, with a property called name, and this is all coming back from the API. And you can get that documentation again at the apiary or volusion.apiary.io. All right, still churning. So looking at that particular product endpoint, there is a get. Let me refresh this. There's a get product by code. You can see this is a sample of the data that's responded at this particular endpoint. It is expecting a code. In this case, this is the actual URL to actually hit this endpoint. You have a string here. It's going to return with this JSON structure. And so where we were looking at a minute ago, the name property hangs off of the data object that's returned, and we're putting that into the product object literal and on the scope. Let's go back and see if we're done. All right, we are super close to being done now. Great. So last step, which is step 16 over here on the right, is to do grunt serve. That's going to kick up Chrome, running on port 9000, and it's going to launch this code, which is again the method theme. So it should look very similar to the samplestore.io site. You can see on the left that it's actually doing all of that minification, building that into the directory structure. And it does cache busting of images. There's a lot of different things that it's doing that are synonymous with a lot of what people are doing on the modern web. Okay. So you'll see here, when this goes away, that we're looking at localhost 9000. It is indeed the same site as you'll see here at samplestore.io. We're going to navigate. This is the data is actually coming from Volusion Store. So we click here, we'll go to the product page. So I'm going to make a quick edit, and then we'll call it a day. We're going to put hello world here next to the product name. I'm going to click Control S to save it. You'll notice here that the console has picked up that I've changed the product HTML, and it's going to run through all of these tasks again and reserve the page. Let's go back. So it actually already reloaded the page, and we see here olive oil, soap, hello world. So that's an example of that live reload feature in practice. If we remove that, the hello world, hit Control S, you'll see that it picked up again that it will pick up here in a second that the product.html changed, and will once again reserve the page, which is great. So again, depending upon how fast your environment is, that particular process on my local environment actually goes a lot faster than this virtual machine. So it's pretty handy. Hopefully you guys were able to follow along and get everything set up alongside myself. If you had any questions or if you had any hitches in the process, we definitely want to hear about that. Please give us feedback at volusion.uservoice.com. Like I said, there's documentation for the theme engine in general, which is here. If that URL changes, it will be here. There's also documentation for the API site, which is here. We also have a Google group where you can join in some discussions there. Anyway, we hope you guys enjoy working the theme engine. We put a lot of effort into it, and once again, thanks again for your time.